ShadowTales. Video title. The photographer called about something disturbing in my daughter's wedding photos. The photographer didn't sound like himself. His voice trembled when he said, "Mr. Ahmed, I almost didn't call you. But you need to see something in the wedding photos." For a moment, I thought he meant a technical mistake. A blurry shot, a shadow, maybe someone blinking during the vows. But then he added, "It's not a camera issue. It's something else." And that's when my chest tightened. My daughter's wedding had been 3 weeks earlier. 3 weeks since I walked her down the aisle. 3 weeks since I held her hand and felt it trembling, not from fear, but from happiness. Her name is Aisha. She's my only child. Her mother passed away when Aisha was 12. From that day on, it was just the two of us against the world. I learned how to braid her hair. I learned how to listen instead of fix. I learned that sometimes a father's silence means more than advice. And when she told me she was getting married, I didn't lose a daughter. I gained peace. Or at least, I thought I did. The wedding was beautiful, not extravagant, but meaningful. Every detail mattered to her. The white roses along the aisle. The soft golden lights hanging above the garden venue. The string quartet playing her mother's favorite song as she walked toward me before the ceremony. I remember thinking that night, this is the happiest I've ever seen her. And beside her, always beside her, was Daniel. Daniel had been in our lives for almost 6 years. He wasn't just her fiancé. He was family. He first met Aisha at university. At first, he was just a polite young man who came over for dinner occasionally. Always respectful, always offering to help clean up. He'd ask me about my work. He'd ask about Aisha's childhood stories. He listened, and over time, he became someone I trusted deeply. When Aisha lost her first job after graduation, Daniel was there, encouraging her. When she doubted herself, he reminded her of her strength. When she cried on the anniversary of her mother's death, he sat with her quietly, holding her hand. I remember one night, 2 years ago, when he stayed back after dinner. "Sir," he said, looking nervous, "I love your daughter. I want to build a life with her. But I want your blessing before I ask." I didn't hesitate, because I believed him. The wedding day itself felt like a dream I didn't want to wake from. I stood at the front of the garden venue, watching guests take their seats. Daniel was already there, adjusting his cufflinks nervously, smiling at everyone who greeted him. He looked proud, grateful, overwhelmed, and when Aisha walked down the aisle, Daniel's eyes filled with tears. Real tears. I saw them. I remember thinking, no man can fake that. After the ceremony, there were speeches, laughter, music, the clinking of glasses. Daniel thanked me publicly for raising the strongest, kindest woman he had ever known. He even hugged me tightly in front of everyone. "You're not losing her," he whispered in my ear. "I promise." And I believed that too. So when the photographer called 3 weeks later, my first instinct wasn't fear. It was confusion. "Can you come to the studio?" he asked. "I don't want to send this digitally." There was something in his tone. Not dramatic, not exaggerated, just uneasy. I drove there that same afternoon. On the way, I replayed the wedding in my mind. The laughter, the dancing, Daniel spinning Aisha under the lights. The way she leaned into him during the final slow song. Everything had looked perfect, maybe too perfect, but that's just how weddings are, right? You look for beauty, you don't look for cracks. The photographer, Mark, has been in the business for over 20 years. He shot my sister's wedding. He shot Daniel's older brother's wedding too. He's calm, methodical, not the type to overreact. When I arrived, he didn't greet me with his usual warm smile. Instead, he led me straight to his editing room. The lights were dim. The monitor glowed softly in the corner. "I noticed something while reviewing the photos," he said, rubbing his hands together. At first, I thought it was just an odd expression. But then I started seeing a pattern. A pattern. That word echoed in my head. He pulled up the first image. It was a beautiful shot, Aisha laughing during the reception. Daniel standing slightly behind her, looking at her. "Zoom in," Mark said quietly. I leaned forward. Daniel wasn't looking at her. He was looking past her. At someone else. A woman standing near the edge of the frame. She wasn't family. I was certain of that. Her expression wasn't joyful. It was tense. I felt a small flicker of discomfort. "That could be nothing," I said quickly. "Maybe he was distracted." Mark nodded slowly. That's what I thought too. He clicked to the next image. This time, during the cake cutting. Aisha smiling at the camera. Daniel smiling too, but his hand, resting at her waist, looked stiff. Forced. And again, in the blurred background, the same woman. Watching. Always watching. My throat felt dry. Who is she? I whispered. I checked the guest list, Mark replied. Her name is listed as a +1. No surname. No connection noted. I tried to think. A cousin's friend. A colleague. Someone from Daniel's side, but I had met nearly everyone from his family over the years. I would remember her, wouldn't I? Mark clicked through more photos. There were subtle things. Daniel stepping aside during group pictures, only when that woman moved closer. Daniel glancing toward his phone repeatedly during the reception. One image showed him outside the venue, near the garden gate. It was late, the lights behind him were dim. And he wasn't alone, he was standing very close to her. Not touching, but close enough that it didn't feel accidental. I felt something cold settle in my chest. This doesn't prove anything, I said, though my voice sounded distant. I know, Mark replied carefully. But there's one more. He hesitated before opening it. It was taken during the final dance of the night. Aisha resting her head against Daniel's shoulder. Eyes closed, trusting, content. Daniel was facing the camera. And in his expression, there was no warmth, no joy, just calculation, as if his mind was somewhere else entirely. And behind him, near the exit, the woman was leaving, and Daniel was watching her go. Not his bride, her. I stared at the screen for a long time, my daughter's happiness frozen in pixels. And behind it, something I couldn't name. A shadow. Mark cleared his throat softly. There's something else, he said. My heart skipped. What? He turned the monitor slightly away, as if unsure. I enhanced one of the outside shots. The one near the gate. He clicked. The image sharpened. Daniel's face. The woman's face. And between them, his hand. Not at his side. Not distant, but gently, brushing hers. Just barely, but intentionally. I felt my stomach drop. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't perspective. It wasn't coincidence. And suddenly, every small memory from the wedding began rearranging itself in my mind. The moments he stepped away. The way he checked his phone. The slight delay before answering when someone asked how they met. Small things. Harmless things. Until now. Mark looked at me carefully. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But as a father, I thought you should know. I couldn't speak, because in that instant, I realized something that terrified me more than betrayal itself. If this had been happening during the wedding, then it didn't start that day. It started long before, and I had missed it. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Aisha. Dad, Daniel's acting strange tonight. Can I call you later? I stared at the screen. And for the first time since the wedding, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. Fear. Not for me, for her. Because whatever was hidden in those photos, it was no longer just a shadow in the background. It was about to step into the light. And I didn't know if I was ready to see what it revealed. The photographer called about something disturbing in my daughter's wedding photos. I didn't answer Aisha's messages right away. I just stared at it. Dad, Daniel's acting strange tonight. Can I call you later? The words felt heavier now. Different, as if they had been written between invisible lines I could suddenly see. I stepped outside Mark's studio, the late afternoon air cool against my face. My hands were trembling, not from anger, but from the weight of what I now knew, or thought I knew. I called her. She picked up on the first ring. Dad, her voice sounded small, not scared, just uncertain. I'm here, I said gently. What's going on? There was a pause. I could hear faint movement in the background, maybe dishes, maybe footsteps. I don't know, she whispered. He's just distant. He's been stepping outside to take calls. When I ask who it is, he says it's work. But his company doesn't operate this late. My grip tightened on the phone. How long has this been happening? Since the honeymoon, she said quietly. Maybe before. I thought it was stress. Stress. We always look for the kindest explanation first. I swallowed. Aisha, I went to see the photographer today. She went silent. Why? He noticed something in the photos. Another pause. This one longer. What kind of something? I chose my words carefully. I didn't want to shatter her with suspicion. Not yet. There was a woman, I said softly. In several shots, Daniel seemed distracted by her. Her breathing changed. Not dramatic, Just slightly unsteady. I noticed her too, she said after a moment. That caught me off guard. You did. She came up to congratulate us. Daniel introduced her as a colleague. But he didn't look at me when he said it. He kept looking at her. My chest tightened. Why didn't you tell me? She let out a fragile laugh. Because it was my wedding day, Dad. I didn't want to be the bride who imagines problems before the cake is even cut. That broke something in me. All this time, I thought I was protecting her by staying out of her marriage. Giving her space. Trusting the man she chose. But maybe I was just avoiding discomfort. That night, she came over. Daniel stayed home. When she walked into my house, she looked the same gentle smile, same steady posture. But her eyes were tired. We sat at the kitchen table where she used to do her homework as a child. I need to know the truth, she said quietly. So I showed her. Not all of it at once. Just a few images. Daniel looking past her during the reception. Daniel standing too close to the woman near the garden gate. And finally, the enhanced photo. His hand brushing the woman's. Aisha didn't cry, she just stared. For a long time. That's not accidental, she said finally. No, I admitted. She inhaled slowly. Her name is Elena. I remember now. She works in his department. He mentioned her once. Said she was efficient. Driven. I hated how normal that sounded. How has he been with you? I asked carefully. She hesitated. He's attentive when he's present, she said. But sometimes it feels like he's performing attentiveness. Like he's checking boxes. That word again. Performing. I remembered his expression during the final dance. His eyes, not cold, not cruel, but elsewhere. As if he were balancing two realities at once. The next evening, Daniel came over. He had no idea I had seen the photos. He greeted me the same way he always did, firm handshake, steady eye contact. Sir. But something in his gaze flickered. Maybe guilt, or maybe I was imagining it now. We sat in the living room. Aisha beside him, close, but not leaning into him the way she once did. I didn't accuse him. I asked questions. How's work? Busy, he replied quickly. Anyone new on the team? A slight pause. A few. Elena still there. There it was. The smallest hesitation. Yes, he said. Why? I think I saw her at the wedding, I said calmly. She came briefly, he replied. Just to congratulate us. Aisha spoke then. Soft, steady. Why didn't you tell me she was coming? He blinked. It wasn't planned. She asked last minute. And you said yes. He shifted slightly. It would have been rude not to. The room felt smaller. I watched his hands. Still, controlled. But his jaw tightened. Aisha reached into her bag. And placed a printed photo on the coffee table. The enhanced one. His hand brushing Elena's. He froze. Not dramatically. Just enough. That's perspective, he said too quickly. It looks closer than it is. I leaned forward. Then why were you outside with her during the final dance? His eyes flicked to me. You followed me. No, I replied evenly. The camera did. Silence filled the room, heavy, pressing. Finally, he exhaled. It wasn't what you think, he said. That sentence. The universal preface to something no one wants to hear. Then tell us what it is, Aisha said quietly. He looked at her. And for the first time since I had known him. He didn't look certain. I was confused, he admitted. Before the wedding, Elena and I worked closely together for months. There were conversations. What kind of conversations? Aisha asked. He hesitated again. Emotional ones. The word landed like a stone in water. Not explosive, but deep. You mean you were developing feelings for her? I asked. He nodded slowly. Aisha's face remained still. And you married me anyway, she said. I thought it would pass, he said quickly. I thought what I felt for you was stronger. And it is, Aisha. I didn't know how to shut the other door completely. Other door, as if love were a hallway with options. Did you meet her after the wedding? Aisha asked. Another pause. Yes. The honesty came too late. For closure, he added. I ended it. You ended what? She whispered. He didn't answer directly, and that was answer enough. I wanted to speak. To protect her, to demand explanations, but this wasn't my marriage. It was hers, so I stayed silent. Aisha stood up slowly. I loved you without hesitation, she said. You loved me with conditions. That's not fair, he replied, his composure slipping. No, she said softly. What's not fair is standing at an altar with someone while wondering about someone else. Tears finally filled her eyes, but they didn't fall. I don't know if this is betrayal, she continued. But it's not loyalty. Daniel reached for her hand. She stepped back, and in that small movement, I saw it. Not anger, not drama, just clarity, the kind that comes when illusion dissolves. Later that night, after Daniel left, she sat beside me in silence. Did I ignore the signs? She asked. I thought about the photos. The glances, the distance. Maybe, I said gently. But loving someone isn't ignorance. It's trust. She leaned her head on my shoulder, just like she used to as a child. I don't regret loving him, she said. I just regret that he didn't love me the same way. Outside, the night was still. No shouting, no chaos, just the quiet unraveling of something that had once felt unbreakable. And as I sat there, holding my daughter's hand, I realized something painful but true. The photographer hadn't captured a scandal. He had captured a moment of divided loyalty. A fraction of a second that revealed what words had hidden. And sometimes, that's all it takes for a perfect picture to crack.